We are so excited to celebrate World Turtle Day with you. It's the 25th anniversary. I'm Caitlin Woods with Eversource, and we have a very special treat for you today. Award-winning wildlife illustrator Matt Patterson is here with us to paint a Blandings turtle with all of you. You know Matt from Cy Montgomery's books, The Book of Turtles and of Time and Turtles.
Time Turtles.
So Matt will paint with you throughout the live stream. We will also be answering any questions that you have about turtles. Matt is extremely knowledgeable and very passionate about turtles. So if you have any questions, drop those into the comments and we will be sure to have those answered. You also know Matt from our new Herptiles guide. Matt illustrated 20 reptiles and amphibians that thrive within our power line corridors. And you can find the guide on our website at eversource.com, so be sure to go over to eversource.com and check out the guide and all of Matt's beautiful illustrations. So with that, I'm excited to turn it over to Matt to paint with you.
Great, thank you. I'm super excited to be celebrating World Turtle Day with you. Well, every day really is a turtle day for me. I grew up loving turtles as far back as I can remember. I was looking for turtles, observing turtles, hatching turtles, and painting turtles. And so some of my earliest memories are of turtles, and everyone knows what a turtle is. Everyone can recognize a turtle and probably has a turtle story. But turtles are really surprising. There are turtles that can climb trees. There are turtles that can sprint more than 15 miles per hour on land, which is faster than the average 10-year-old running the 100-meter dash. There's a turtle with a glow-in-the-dark shell. There's even a turtle that can pee out of its mouth, which is pretty wild. Turtles have been around for over 200 million years. They arose at the same time as the dinosaurs. But today, 60% of the more than 350 species are threatened with extinction in the wild. So turtles really do need our protection, and there's things that we can do to help them. But let's jump right into this painting. Today, we're going to paint a Blandings turtle. It's a beautiful turtle found here in New Hampshire, and I'll show you what we have to paint with. So you should have a basic watercolor set, a variety of brushes, a paper towel, a cup of water, and this printout of the drawing, of the Blandings turtle drawing. So to start, just take a brush in the water and just put a drop of water on each of the colors, the watercolors, just to get them wet, just to get them ready. So just a drop on each one. Blandings turtles are really cool turtles, really beautiful turtles, and they have these highly domed shells when they get older. It almost looks like an army helmet, and they have light speckles all over them. And their neck is really long, and it's darker on top, and it has bright yellow underneath it. And they have kind of a flatter head with a yellow chin. And what I really like about Blandings turtles is they always have a smile. It looks like their face is a permanent smile. So just wet all the colors like that. And I have a really basic watercolor set, and I just have some basic brushes. I have a variety of brushes, some thicker, some smaller. And I'm going to mix all my paints on the side on this plastic here. So you could use the top of your lid, or if you have a paper plate. So to start, I always start with the head first. So I'm going to take a smaller brush, one of the skinnier ones, get it wet, and then I'm going to take some black and mix it on the side. And maybe a little touch of brown. And then I'm not going to have it too thick, really water it down. Watercolors kind of soak into the paper and you can rework them. But it's easier to paint a little thin and then get thicker. So, have that mixed up, a watery mix, and we'll start in just painting the neck. And you can see my hand probably looks as wrinkly as a turtle, because it is. So underneath the neck, like I said, is yellow. So we're going to leave that area, in the chin too, we're going to leave that area blank for now. So just wash it on. And you can always go back and watch this. I'm going too fast because I have a little bit of experience. So paint around the eye and just fill in the head. Alright, and then we're going to do the same thing for the legs. And under, like, see the little turtle's armpit kind of here? This is also kind of it's not bright yellow, but it is also yellow, and sometimes they have yellow speckles. So just wash that in. If you have too much, just wipe it off in the paper towel. And like I said, these turtles are beautiful turtles, and right now is about the time they're laying eggs. A lot of turtles here in the Northeast are. They lay about 8 to 10 eggs. Get the back leg here. And these guys can live. You can also turn your paper if you need to. They can live up to 80 years in the wild. Good. Somehow I got a piece of dog fur. Okay. So we have that basic wash in. Now we're going to mix up some yellow. So just get this water, the same thing. You don't want it too thick. This is broken a little, so I'm going to use my hand. You can even put a little touch of orange. Too much. Some more yellow. And just paint that under the neck. So they have this bright yellow patch, and you really see it when they stick up their head. So just get under here, like that, and you can add a little under the arm where it's going into the shell. That. Okay. And then next we're going to take the black that we already had. I still have the same small brush, this really thin brush. Makes it a little easier for these details. And we're just going to darken some areas that would be darker, so, and add some wrinkles. So where the shell meets the neck, there'd be a shadow. So you can make that a little darker. You can use it to add there's some wrinkles drawn in, but you can add some. And make this a little darker here. This little round thing right here is a turtle's ear. They don't have an ear like us, but they have this disc-like membrane, and they can hear a human whisper. That's how well they can hear. And they make noise too. A study was just done, published in Nature magazine, and they recorded 50 turtles, and all 50 are recorded using sound to communicate. So just add some more wrinkles. And if you've heard Jurassic Park, the raptors, when they're making their noises, those are actually turtle sounds that they used.
We have our first question.
Yes.
Matt. The Stan says, excellent work on the Herptile poster artwork. My kids are now very interested in which turtle can pee out of its mouth. Do you happen to know which species this is off the top of your head?
I do know. This turtle that can pee out of its mouth is always a big hit. It is a Chinese softshell turtle. So it's not around here. It's not in the Northeast, but it's a softshell turtle. It has these big kind of, almost looks like puffy lips. The beak has this kind of fleshiness to it, and like Botox lips, and that's the one that pees out of its mouth. But a lot of turtles can breathe out of their butt, which is also an amazing thing. The turtles here in the Northeast do that in the winter. They can absorb oxygen through their butt, and they have really bad breath.
Also, what can people do to help protect endangered turtle species in their day-to-day lives?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I'm just adding some black right here. There are a lot of things you can do. You can volunteer and support organizations like the Turtle Survival Alliance, which works all around the world with turtles to protect them. You can, if you see a turtle crossing the road, you can just always move it in the direction it's going, because they know where they're going, and help it across. If you find an injured turtle, you can call a wildlife rehabber. And most states have, on the Fish and Wildlife, have a list of wildlife rehabbers. So you can do those. Those are some easy things you can do. You can volunteer with some conservation groups and maybe a nest protection group to do turtle nests. So now that we have the neck and we have some dark spots in, good thing about watercolors is you can take some water and just get this area wet again, and then rip off a piece of the paper towel, and you can kind of, it's a little trick, you can wipe away some of the paint to give it a little bit of a shine, like a highlight. And just, you can do that right here to add a little more depth. And if you want to just add a little more black here, just to make it a little darker to stand out. That's that. So now we got the legs and the head done. We can move on to the shell. Top of the shell is called the carapace. And these ones have a really domed carapace. The bottom is called the plastron. And these turtles have a really beautiful plastron. It's kind of tan with these dark markings on it. And each one of these segments is called a scoop. So they have a dark shell. So what we can do is just take the same black, water it down a little more. I'm using a bigger brush now, a little bit bigger. And just wash it on. Oh, another interesting fact too for turtles, World Turtle Day, is the first animals to orbit the moon were turtles. Russian tortoises. And then they, I think, successfully returned too. And just wash that on. So evens out. And then just wiping the brush away. You can let that dry for a second. In fact, we'll go back and get a little bit of brown. Mix a little black with it, really wash it down. And I'll just, with a really small brush, paint in the claws. That. Okay. So I'm taking still a small brush, a little thicker. Take some of the black and just kind of, not too much, just get some of the shell darker in some areas to add a little more depth to it. And just brush it in like that. Like I said, here in the Northeast, turtles are nesting, so there's lots of them on the move. And there's going to be big snapping turtles crossing the road, which a lot of people are afraid of, but they're really, snapping turtles are really important. They're kind of like vultures of ponds, so they eat dead things. and they're really important. They don't attack people when they're swimming. A lot of people think they will. If that was the case, every night in the news there'd be another turtle attack, because they're in every pond, every lake, every brook. So here we go. We have darker area on the bottom, and the same thing we did on the head. Take some water, clean the brush, take some water, and kind of mix it into the top here, and then wipe it away. And that gives a highlight. Like that. And we can take a small brush, mix a little bit of yellow, and a little bit of brown for water it down for the base, the bottom, which is plastron, like I mentioned. And just paint that in. Like that. So it's starting to get colorful. And keep using a small brush. And oops. Good thing if you mess up, you just wipe it away. So get some yellow. You do it a little thicker now. And a real small brush, and just put some of these little speckles. These are always light colored. They start out more yellow, and as they get older, they get more faded. And turtles, usually as they get older, their shell gets smoother just because it gets worn with time. So add some of these spots. Another turtle here in New Hampshire, in Mass, it's called the spotted turtle. It's much smaller, it's a little more flat, and it has really bright yellow spots. And each spot, or each turtle has its own spot pattern, so it's kind of like a fingerprint. You can ID them. And it's always exciting when you get to see one of these turtles in the wild. So just add some spots, some speckles. You don't have to do exactly the dots that are drawn in there. And do a few more. The turtle I mentioned that can run 15 miles an hour on land is also a soft shell. Chinese soft shell is the one that pees out of its mouth. Well, this one is the spiny soft shell. It looks like a pancake. It has a big, long, snorkely nose. And if you YouTube it, you can probably find a video. And I've definitely gone down the rabbit hole of looking at turtle videos. So, one more thing, you gotta get some brown and a little bit of red for the eye. So just a small brush. Put that in. And then just put a dab of black in the middle. Perfect. So now we can move on to the background. So I'm going to use a brush that's the biggest brush I have. This is how big it is compared to my hand. And if you run out of space on your palette, just take a little bit of water and paper towel and wipe it away. So I'm going to use blue. I'm just going to do a basic blue background. So just take some blue, really water it down, because you don't want it too bright. So I'm really, really watering it down, so it's just like a tint. And then just wash that in.
Matt, we have another question for you.
Yes. Okay.
What is your favorite turtle species?
My favorite turtle species? There's so many good ones. My favorite turtle is the wood turtle. It's a endangered or threatened turtle. It's here in New Hampshire. It's this beautiful turtle that has these, it's called, the scientific name is Glyptemes insculpta, and it does look like it's sculpted. The shell is like brown and it has these sun marks on it, and it has bright red legs and a bright red neck, and they live in kind of trout quality streams, so those sun marks really blend in because it looks like sun going through the water, and you see them where they belong in their natural habitat. One of my other favorites is the radiated tortoise, which is found in Madagascar. And radiated tortoises have these really high dome shells and these patterns on them, look like sunbursts. That's why they're called radiated, and they're critically endangered. They live in the spiny forest, and they're, I think, the most beautiful tortoise in the world. So I guess those are my two favorite, like bog turtles, spotted turtles, landing turtles. So just brush that in.
We have another question for you from Bob Allen. He says, does cold spring weather like this week adversely affect New England turtles?
They probably won't be out moving right now, and this is nesting season, but it's so cold these past few days that they won't be on the move, they won't be nesting, but I think it's going to warm up, so it doesn't affect them long term. It affects me, I'm cold. So just brush some of the blue in here, and that might take a little longer than I just did it, but take your time. The next, I'm going to take some black, mix it up, and then just paint it in. These would be darker areas under the stump, so just paint those in there.
Another question for you, Matt. Why do you turtly love turtles?
Why do I turtly love turtles? I was born loving turtles, I guess. They're just amazing animals. They, like I mentioned, they've been around for over 200 million years. They're in the ocean, the rainforest, deserts. They're found all around the world, a variety of colors and shapes, and they're smart. They're important. I just think they're amazing, fascinating animals.
Stan says the kids loved the additional fun fact about the turtles breathing. And his daughter would like to know, what is your earliest turtle memory as a kid?
So one of my earliest memories is of a turtle, not even as a kid, just in general. I was out with my father in a rowboat, and we were looking for turtles, and I remember seeing one. We used to go out looking for turtles all the time. I grew up looking for turtles with him, looking for snakes, going fishing. So I have a really early memory of a Blanding's turtle too that my mom had found crossing the road and helped it across. Because I remember it specifically because it was missing a leg. All right, so take some brown, water it down, add a little bit of black. I have a medium-sized brush, this, and we're just going to paint the stump. Let's put an initial wash on it. And if you mess up, you can always just take a paper towel and wipe it away. Watercolor, I think, are pretty easy. I usually paint with a hairdryer, so I can just dry it right away. So just try to make it even, but it's a stump, so it's okay. It has some texture.
Matt, World Turtle Day joined us, and they said, thank you for sharing all the love for turtles and tortoises.
Great. Some turtles can live a super long time. there's an Aldabra tortoise that lived 288 years. A tortoise, a Galapagos tortoise, recently died that was alive when George Washington was, so it's pretty wild to think about. So just keep washing it on. Keep it watering down. And all right, let's see some other turtle facts. The largest turtle is the leatherback sea turtle. And these are huge. They can be 7 feet long, the carapace, the shell, 7 feet long, 2,000 pounds, much as a small car. The smallest is a speckled padloper tortoise, which I think males are only 3 inches. The smelliest is the African helmeted turtle. And we have another turtle here in the Northeast called the musk turtle, or the stink pot. And they are really smelly too. And they're actually really good climbers. I see them in trees a lot that are hanging over the water. So when they get scared, they just jump out of the tree.
How can you tell how old a turtle is?
How old the turtles? It's hard to tell exactly how old a turtle is. Some turtles, these sections are called scutes, and each year they kind of grow a new ring like a tree, and you can count those, but that's only good up until about 15, 16 years. Then they start to get worn. But one way to tell is a really old turtle, like a Blanding's turtle, would be really smooth because it's really polished from just rubbing against things. It's polished with time. All right, so just I have a medium-sized pointy brush and some more of the brown, and we're just gonna do some dark areas that would be shadows. So underneath would be a little bit darker. There are turtles with super long necks, and those are called snake neck turtles. They look like someone stuffed a snake in a turtle shell. Some of them have necks that are longer than the carapace. They have to tuck them into the side because they can't pull it in.
Matt, do snapping turtles have any natural enemies or predators?
They do, especially when they're young. So when snapping turtles little, everyone is trying to eat them. Frogs eat them, fish eat them, reptiles, other birds will eat them, mammals, chipmunks will eat them. Chipmunks will take them and pick them up like a little hamburger and eat them, which is awful. And when they're eggs, everyone's trying to eat them as well. Even roots from plants will send their roots into the nest and suck out the moisture. So it's really hard for a turtle to make it to an adult. Once they get bigger, snapping turtles, their only real threat is people, especially roads and cars. And people are scared of them. They're wonderful turtles. They're so prehistoric, and each one has its own personality, just like people, just like our dogs or cats. My voice is cracked. They all have their own personality.
Why are box turtles called box turtles?
Box turtles are called box turtles because they have 2 hinges on their plaster on the bottom, and they can close their shell up completely. So that helps them avoid predators like raccoons or a fox. And they're beautiful turtles. So just make some darker areas. You can take a smaller brush, take the same brown, and then see all these lines you can add and highlight some of those just to give it a little more texture. So just really thin brush. And we should add some shadow under the turtle. Alright, so we'll take some really watered down black. Take a really watered down wash. And just underneath the shell, kind of brush that in. Just to make it so it looks like it's sitting on the log. And I have a snapping turtle that lives with me named Fire Chief. Fire Chief has his own book coming out. He's one of the stars of Time and Turtles, but he has his own picture book coming out this September called The True and Lucky Life of a Turtle. And it is about his life from when he hatches as an egg all the way up until now. He's called Fire Chief. He's a really unique snapping turtle. He's very friendly. He lived in a fire pond next to a fire station for decades. He got there when he was a little turtle. And then when he got there, the road wasn't as busy, but over time it became a state highway. And in 2018, he was hit by a car and it paralyzed his back legs and his tail. And he crawled back to his pond. And he rolled down the hill bleeding, and the firemen saw him, and they liked him, but they were afraid of him. These are people who run into burning buildings. They were afraid of him because he was a snapping turtle, so they called the Turtle Rescue League, and these two skinny ladies came out, one of them blind, and they launched kayaks and got him and patched him up. And when I met him, he had healed, but his back legs weren't working very well, so I got to do physical therapy with him. And eventually he got use in him, and so this tells the story of his life. So it's called The True and Lucky Life of a Turtle. So I'm just taking some water like before and adding some highlights to the top.
Matt, someone would like to know if snapping turtles are dangerous. You're a good person to ask since you have one.
Yeah, people are afraid of them. They're only snapping because they're defending themselves. They're defensive, and in the water they just get away from you. They don't want anything to do with you. They're not dangerous unless you're putting your hands in their face. But if you're swimming, if you're out walking, they're not going to run after you. They're not going to swim after you and bite you. I always say if that was the case, then every night in the news there'd be tons of turtle attacks because snapping turtles are everywhere. And they're really important. They're the vultures of ponds, so if we didn't have them, we'd be up to our lips in dead fish when we go swimming. So take some green, maybe a little bit of yellow.
Matt, you mentioned that the turtle's shell changes over time, gets smoother. There's a kiddo out there who's painting with you who would like to know if there are any other appearance changes for turtles as they age.
Yeah, they always kind of look old, don't they? Old and wrinkly. Some of them fade a bit. Their colors fade somewhat. Blanding's turtles are brighter. As they get older, their speckles will fade a bit. They get smoother, which is one of the main things. You can kind of see the history on their shell. They accumulate scars or nicks in their carapace. Fire Chief has some cracks that heal, but you can still see him. He also has his beak, his jaws was cracked at one point and it healed on its own. So he's a tough looking dude. So I just paint some green into the leaves, into the stem. And can get some more and kind of add some darker area. That's too dark, but it's easily fixed. And just spread it out. Add some darker areas just to give it a little more depth. And same with this one. Just make some darker areas. We can do that thing with the wipe away some of the paint to make some highlights. There we go. And mess up. Wipe it away. So underneath would be a little darker. So we're getting there. Now I would take the same green, add a bunch of yellow. So it's a little different from the pickerelweed. Use a really thin brush and just go over the grass. In the Book of Turtles, because I told you how turtles all are different, just like our dogs, our cats, like we are, they all have their own personality. Sometimes they become celebrities, so we have a whole section on celebrity turtles. One of them is Myrtle, which I bet a bunch of you have seen Myrtle if you're in the Northeast. She is the now 9-year-old, 550-pound green sea turtle, who is the queen of the giant ocean tank. And everyone knows she's the boss, and she steals squid right out of sharks' mouths. And they often do photo shoots or filming in the tank, and whenever they do, they have to have someone there to wrangle her, because she photobombs it. We have Polly and Bibi, who are the it couple for about 90 years at the Klagenfurt Zoo in Austria, until their famous breakup. They lived together happily for almost 100 years, and then one day, for some reason, the female Bibi, or maybe Polly, or whoever the female was, woke up and couldn't stand the other one, the male. And she would bite at him and hiss at him. She bit off part of his shell. She made him bleed. And the zookeepers tried everything to get them back together. Nothing worked. And so now they're separate, probably for another 100 years. That happens to some people too, I think. So just take some water and make a highlight on the leaf. And do it to this one. And we're got about 5 minutes to go, so if you've got questions, fire away.
Stan says, when I was a kid, we were able to find bog turtles pretty frequently throughout North Carolina and Virginia. How endangered is the population nowadays, and are there any ongoing initiatives to help the bog turtles?
Bog turtles are, they're one of the rarest turtles in North America now. They're critically endangered. They're tiny turtles. One of the main problems is habitat loss, but also another huge problem, and people don't realize this, is here in the Northeast is illegal collecting and poaching. And there's a whole trade for illegal turtles, and that's one of the huge threats to them. There's a lot of groups working with them, studying them, to try to conserve land where they are. But they're definitely, like many turtles, struggling. So I'm just adding some darker areas. Bog turtles are beautiful. I got to see some. I was with New York Fish and Wildlife, and we were out looking for radio tagged ones, and the area was super boggy, and there was poison sumac everywhere, and swampy, and they had radio tags on them. But even with that, they're really hard to find, which is really good for the turtles. And I got to see one and hold it. It's like the holy grail of holding a North American turtle.
Lynn would like to know, what do you feed Fire Chief?
What do I feed Fire Chief? Fire Chief eats these special turtle nuggets. They're crocodile nuggets, also made for snapping turtles. But he also eats other things like I catch him fish and feed him fish. And at one point, he wasn't eating the first year when he moved in for the winter. And we got him a few pieces of salmon fillets. And then that's all he wanted to eat, which is a huge problem. He was eating better than us. We finally got him back on track. So he eats these turtle nuggets, special turtle nuggets, and fish. And he eats, I can feed him out of my hand, and he won't bite me. He's never bitten me. He lets me scratch him in the face, which don't do that with a wild snapping turtle. I don't want to spread bad habits here. So I'm just making this a little darker. So some things that you can do to help turtles. Like I mentioned earlier, if you find them crossing the road, move them in the direction they're going. If you find an injured one, call a wildlife rehabber, someone who specializes in turtles. And let's see. So as we're wrapping up, we can just do a few little things, add some dark areas, some black right here. Maybe enhance some of these scales. Over. And one little trick, if you have, and I didn't say to have this, so you probably don't, but if you have at home poster paints or acrylic paints, you can take some white, so I have a little bit of acrylic here. This is cheating a little bit, but it looks good. Take some white, a little brush, mix it up so it's kind of thick but still a little bit watery, like sour cream. And you can add some white highlights on top to really make it stand out. You can do it on the neck. Just to make them a little more shiny.
Matt, do extremely cold winters affect their survival rate?
I'm not quite sure. They could possibly, but turtles, they're under the ice. They do really well in the Northeast. Like some turtles are really evolved for cold weather, like wood turtles. And that's when they do their little trick of breathing through their butt. And a little highlight here. And maybe add a highlight on the shell, the carapace on the edge of it, just to make it stand out from the legs and the neck. And if you have a white watercolor, you can make it really thick and do the same thing. I'm just going to add a little bit. So, wrapping up here, you can add a few highlights here. So there we go. So if there are no more questions, or any more questions, I think we can wrap up. Hope you all have a great World Turtle Day and had fun painting this with me. I definitely had fun, and like I said, see a turtle crossing the road, give it a hand. Thank you.